Hey everyone, it's Kellen Brower here from RacerX, back again with another race examination video. We're going to go back to Unadilla real quick. For those of you that know me, I was a little bit under the weather last week and lost my voice, so unfortunately didn't get a chance to recap Unadilla, but there are some things that I wanted to talk about from the Unadilla National. And first I want to talk about Chase Sexton's wild ride in the first 450 moto that caused him to go down over the whole shot line when he was in about 4th or 5th spot and riders scattering around him. And it was kind of lucky that Sexton didn't get clipped at all, but he did knock the wind out of him and thought that he had broken some ribs perhaps, but he eventually got back up and finished 11th. So I wanted to talk about this crash. It reminds me a lot of Hunter Lawrence's crash at Washougal at round 7 of the championship a few weeks back, where Lawrence just getting on the gas and his rear tire kind of kicks out over a rut, and as he went into the shadows he couldn't see where the rut went. But the difference here was that Sexton obviously could see the rut. The only problem is he just started kicking out of the little notch that he was in, and by the time he realized it was a little bit too late. The rear end kicked out almost immediately. He swaps a couple times and then gets flipped up the track. And I wanted to highlight a couple things here. First off, Joey Savacci, very good evasive action. And then Brandon Hartranft did the same thing to avoid his bike. But the real catalyst here was Sexton actually fell on the backside of his bike. So he was pretty much blocked the whole time by his motorcycle, which ultimately probably ended up saving him from maybe getting clipped by a few other riders coming through. Definitely don't want to crash with the whole field behind you in the first couple of corners of the race. All right, let's talk about Aaron Plessinger's brutal crash in the first 450 moto as well. He was tailing Roczen most of the race, and you can see his bike is absolutely destroyed, and he crashed in a pretty odd spot right after gravity cavity over the finish line jump. If you see guys crash here, usually it's because they swap out on landing, or maybe they just get the jump wrong altogether and go over the bars or something like that. But in this case, Plessinger loops out on landing. So I want to highlight a couple things. First off, look at this hole here on the left side of the track where Plessinger is pretty much almost going to land exactly right there. You can see him come into view. And then what Plessinger said after the race is that hole, when he landed in it, it shifted his weight back, and he kind of had his hand slipped off the bars a little bit, and it pretty much caused him to go full throttle while leaning back off the bike and kind of like do a half backflip. Actually, it's like almost impressive that he like bunny hopped off the ground. Unfortunately, it just drove him into the ground, and that would be the end of his day, and he's still kind of reeling from some of those injuries. But you can see landing in that hole pretty much shifts his weight back immediately and then gets the bike looped all the way around, lands pretty hard, and still dealing with some of those injuries. I want to remind everybody that this video is presented by OnX Off-Road. Nowhere to go with the #1 off-road GPS app. Access 400,000 plus miles of trails and roads, open dates, and public lands. Download the OnX Off-Road app today. So another thing I wanted to hit on from Unadilla was Jett Lawrence's line selection in 250 Moto number 2 that helped him go on to win the race eventually. And it starts with here about 23 minutes left to go in the race. He sizes up this line around the outside of Justin Cooper, and you can almost see the light bulb go off in his head like, huh, that worked pretty well. I gained a lot of time in that section. So the very next lap, he just kind of waits his time out, goes to the outside, and just hits this rut a little bit harder, a little bit faster, gets on the pegs, and carries the speed all the way through the outside. And the reason I wanted to highlight this is because sometimes it just takes like one little rut, one little thing that you do differently when the times are as close as these guys run at the top. The pace seems so similar with these guys that can make all the difference, especially in a race situation like this. So Lawrence finding this line early in the race helped him a lot, and lo and behold, when he caught up to Jeremy Martin about 5 or 6 minutes later after passing Jay Coop, he goes around the outside of Jay Mart and goes into the race lead and eventually goes on to win the race. So just something little like that, like line selection, can make a huge difference in this 250 class. One final thing I want to hit on from Unadilla: Ken Roczen went 1-1 on the day in dominating fashion for the most part, but it all starts with Ken Roczen's first laps of the race. He is an absolute maestro on the opening laps, and it's because of stuff like this. It's because of thinking outside of the box to make quick early passes as he's trying to get around Cooper Webb for second in the second 450 moto, makes the pass on Webb, eventually goes after his teammate Sexton. It takes him a while to get around Sexton, admittedly. They went back and forth for a little bit there, but Roczen, he does stuff like this on the opening laps of the race where he just doesn't fall into the same norm. He doesn't follow lines or anything like that. He tries something different on the opening lap when he can make the most ground up. So like in this case, Cooper Webb is in the main line. He doesn't hit the rut bad or anything like that, but Roczen goes way outside to inside, hopping over ruts, trying to find something different to bank off of, and just going a little bit faster through sections like these to make early passes and get away from the field early on. Roczen is one of the few guys I've ever seen be this effective at it on opening laps, and it helped him go 1-1 on the day at Unadilla.